Today's interview is with Kim Dyer. Kim talks to us today about an alternative to the 1031 and a way to sort of defer the capital gains on a deal. So really interesting and something that I've heard about before, but she goes into a lot more details and answers a lot more questions. So if you're interested in finding out a different way to sort of defer the capital gains, you're not necessarily avoiding them, but deferring them and having another tool in your tool belt, today is a great interview for you. Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor Barri Griffiths. Now today we're joined by Kim Dyer. Hey, Kim.
Hi.
Hi. Hey. Well, hey, great to have you on the show. I'm excited.
Great to be here.
We were having a fantastic conversation beforehand, as it always seems to be the case. And I wonder sometimes, should I be recording this as well? But we had a great conversation beforehand, and this is going to be great conversations that we have today as well. But before we dive into that, do you want to sort of introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. I'm Kim Dyer, and my background, I have a MBA, and I'm an enrolled agent, so it allows me to talk a little bit about taxes. So I have that background. And I've been in the financial services industry for 15 years and working on lots of different ideas, ways to save money, places, where do you put your money, planning for retirement. So I do a lot with small businesses, but I focus on individuals and their retirement. How are you going to make your money last through retirement? And so we do a lot helping individuals with
Very cool. How did you get started? What brought you to that business? What attracted you to that?
Well, I was in healthcare I worked at a couple of different hospitals. I was in Nebraska and in Wyoming, and I have a college friend that in Montana, and they were rodeoers. They barrel raced, and they are team ropers. And I always loved that lifestyle. And they talked me into moving up to Montana and starting a business with them. And we opened the business and did financial services. My husband's from Long Beach, California, and has always wanted to be in a little bit warmer country, than Wyoming. And the wind does always blow there and it's cold. But so he wanted to move south. So I had an opportunity and came down here to Arizona and relocated and started a new business. So I sold mine to my partner up in Montana, but we worked a lot with ranchers. It was a great people to work with that are working the land and, doing hard work. So, but anyway, then I came down to Arizona and started a new business and just helping people with their retirement.
I always hear that Wyoming is beautiful, but I don't think I've ever been. I guess.
Am I your first Wyoming person to be interviewed?
Maybe, yeah, in Montana. Yeah, I don't think I've interviewed anyone from Montana.
Because there's only 500 people that live in 500,000.
I was going to say 500 people.
Yeah, 500,000 people in Wyoming. So there's not very many.
Yeah.
So I think there's 5 million people just in the Phoenix Valley. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, and Phoenix is a very popular place to live right now, both to invest in real estate and just to move to, and because of
it's going crazy right now. People are getting significantly higher than their asking price. They put out their price and they get bids higher, and what a crazy time to be selling the property.
It's a great time to be selling. I think a terrible time to be trying to buy. I know interest rates are low, but here in Las Vegas, it's the same thing. Like my wife was saying, she's an agent here, that there was a property that had 55 offers on it in 36 hours. 55.
No way. 55.
Yeah, 55. Yeah. How does that make sense? Like how do you buy a property when it's that kind of crazy stuff?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's I don't know that it's that bad here, but that is craziness.
Yeah, it's tough out there for sure. But with financial services, what, for people that hear financial services, they might have an idea, but kind of what does that look like from on your end in terms of for people to understand kind of what you do?
Well, what we're helping people think about when they retire, maybe they've got a rental property that they don't want to keep, or sometimes we've got, like I'm working with an individual now, and maybe he's got 5 rental properties, and he says, I want to retire. I don't want to be the one that have to go out and take care of all of these business, these issues that come up during the night. So if they want to sell that, and then the gain that they're going to be making, if you have to pay a huge chunk to the IRS, that's disappointing. And, the capital gains tax that's due. So a lot of people are looking for ways to minimize the tax. Or let's say you had a $2 million sale, real estate sale. And what if you could, and let's say the capital gains on it was 300,000. If you could keep that 300,000 in an investment account and make money on it and not have to pay the tax until 20 years out, you could make significant amount of money on that and keeping it in a fund, and you're making money on what you would have paid the government if you paid it right away. So those are some of the things that we've been looking with or working with or running scenarios to say, if I can avoid paying the tax for a while, what would that look like? And that's some of the things that we've been working on or talking with clients about, is if you sell your property and avoid paying the tax, and can you get an income stream until 20 years down the road, or some other option. A lot of people, and maybe you've talked to someone about a 1031 exchange.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have done 1031 exchange, but the problem with that is it has to be like for like. And right now it's hard to find property to match up, and they're worried about if there's another slump in the market in a while, because it's high right now, that a lot of commercial property is being vacated because small businesses are going out of business. So commercial property is kind of a worry right now. And if you aren't getting an income stream when you make that 1031 exchange, it makes it volatile, or people aren't sure they want to do that. And so are there some other alternatives to a 1031 exchange? And that's what started us looking at these other ideas.
Yeah, because so 1031 exchanges as well, all those things that you mentioned are also an issue, but also you have a time issue, right? You're rushed into, it's not it's a CPA, but it's 45 days from when you make the sale. It's 45 days to identify 3 properties, and you're only allowed to identify 3, and you need to close on one of those then in 6 months time from that end of
180 days.
Yes.
And there's no give on those days. So those deadlines are, you have to identify them within 45. You have to identify or conclude this transaction in 180 days. And if you don't, then the deal's off.
Yeah, and they're not flexible, right? If it's Christmas, if it's New Year, if it's your mother's birthday or whatever it is, there's zero flexibility. The date is the date. And, obviously if you've made it, if the properties that you've bought or the property you bought has gone up significantly in value, that taxing implication can be a lot of money, right? It can be a lot of money that you're walking away from if you get that wrong. So it can be a lot of pressure. And 1030, and I'm actually doing one now, actually. So I know the fun of that and the challenges of that as well.
And identifying a good qualified person, administrator to handle it. There's just so many components of that. So this. One of the ideas that we've been working on and have had a couple people kind of go through is I don't know if you know section 453 in the code. It is the installment sale code of the IRS. So that's been around a long time. You know, you sell a property, and if you don't get paid for all of it, you take payments over time, then you only have to pay tax on that portion that you've received. That's the code or the IRS code regarding installment sales. So like I have a client right now who is receiving payments, but the person he's sold to gets to determine when he's going to pay the balloon. You know, so all of a sudden he can get the balance of the sale and have to pay tax with not much notice. So, or you're receiving payments over time, and what if that person goes out of business? Or what if the market drops? You aren't assured of getting those payments. So what if you could do the installment sale, but get the money in the bank in a trust that's going to come to you, and you don't have to worry about the balloon payments. You don't have to worry about them giving you the balloon payments sooner. You don't have to follow up on making sure they make their payments. You don't have to, there's just lots of positives. You don't have to worry about the person going out of business or filing bankruptcy. So what it is that you put your property inside a trust, and the trust makes the sale, and then the trust accepts all the funds, and your funds from that sale sit inside the trust. And as long as they sit inside that trust, the deal's done. You don't have to worry about the person who bought the property. You don't have to worry about all the things that can happen from a buyer. Then you get an income stream from those funds. So we've built up a couple different scenarios, but maybe you get 6% income off of the sale proceeds that are sitting inside that trust, and you get that for 20 years. And at the end of the 20 years, then you have to pay the tax. So there's a couple things you can do. You can, do some investments about setting aside part of that income stream that you get so that the money is there to pay the tax. So one of the downsides is you have to pay tax based on the capital gains at that time. And we don't know what that rate is going to be. That's a downside. But if you look at the history of capital gains tax rates in the US, it kind of is on a roller coaster, because the government officials, they raise the capital gains rate, they see the negative impact of it, so they bring it down again, and then it goes back up, and it goes through this love-hate relationship. They want it to be more, but it impacts negatively business, so then they lower it. So you can control when you pay the tax at a lower rate. So you don't have to wait the full 20 years, but you can wait 20 years. So the trust makes that determination.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
It's kind of a neat idea that it takes that buyer or all the things that can happen when you make a sale and it doesn't work, or there's problems with it, and it puts your money in a safe place, and then you determine when you're going to take the rest of it out of the trust and pay the tax.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. And I'm going to go over it in my head with you, and hopefully other people it'll clear up to them. So, from my understanding, is you have a property, you transfer it over into a trust, right? Does it matter what kind of trust you advise people on?
Well, it needs to be a trust whose purpose is it's an irrevocable trust. So once you transfer the property over, it is irrevocable, and it is the owner of that property at that time. So it's a decision. It's a specific purpose trust that would hold that property.
And are there any challenges with doing that ever, with maybe if you have financing on the property or any kind of, not a sale, but it's changing ownership essentially, right? Right.
There's no issue transferring the property. Now, if there's a loan on the property that you're selling, that would have to be dealt with through the trust. But those are things that can be handled when you transfer to the trust. It can have a loan on it, and part of the transaction can be to get that loan paid off, which would decrease the funds that are sitting there to pay that 6% income stream to you. So
yeah. So then, okay, so obviously you transfer it over into a trust, then you make the sale, so you sell the property, you get the proceeds of that, and then you put it back in the same trust, right? That the property
you put
was
the proceeds from the sale into that trust.
Yeah. And then from there, you're able to take 6% a year for 20 years or for as long as you want, I guess. Is it
For as long, yes. So that 6% income stream is like the rent that you might receive off of a 1031, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to pay tax on that 6% income stream that you're getting, but the proceeds that are sitting in the trust, because in effect you haven't received them, you don't have to pay the capital gains tax. So the capital gains tax isn't due until you distribute the principal or the sales proceeds.
Right.
So they sit in that trust.
Interesting. And then is that 6%? Do you have to take 6%? Could it be
No,
5, 4, 3?
Adjust.
It's just the max. 6 is the max.
To make it work, generally it looks like 6% is the max. Yeah.
Okay.
But every deal is different. People are different ages. So it's running the numbers and looking to see what makes sense and looking to see what the gain is, so. And what I was going to say is I've got a client that has 5 properties. You can do those 5 properties, 5 different sales within one trust. So you don't have to have a different trust for every property. So somebody that's doing rentals, you could, if you're getting ready to sell those, you could do that through that trust. But there definitely has to be, you're complicating your life by setting up the trust and, going through the distribution of the income, that it has to be a bigger sale. So it depends on how much capital gains. So like California, they have a big state capital gains there, plus you've got the federal capital gains. So it makes it a smaller sale, makes it worthwhile. Whereas Las Vegas, they don't have that capital gains. So it needs to be a little bit bigger sale to make it worthwhile to go through the complication of setting up the trust and all the things that have to be done to make it work.
Right. And then also an interesting thing that I didn't know, I've heard of this before, but interesting thing I didn't realize, I thought you had to wait till the 20 years and then pay the capital gains. But if you decide after 4 years, you say, hey, this is a low capital gains rate, let me pay it now, I want to take this burden off or whatever, you can do it then?
You can. You can. Or you can make arrangements to do it, maybe you take every 3rd year, you pay portion of it. So the trust is in control of when those proceeds are distributed to you, but you're the beneficiary of the trust. So the funds are there for your benefit and they'll come out to you. So that's part of what's set up with that trust. So it's not like you have to worry about something happening to that entity or it going bankrupt or them not making their payment like they were supposed to or it not being rented out. You just you invest those funds and those funds are going to be making money and that's going to pay out that 6%.
Very interesting. And then once you've paid off that capital gains as well, say you pay it off in the 3rd year for whatever reason that is, could you take all that money out of the trust, or do you only have to? You
can shut it down.
Oh wow!
So which is nice. It's not like the 1031 where you're really stuck until you do something. Where this, you're not. Yes, you're in control of when you shut it down. You can say, and you're working with the trust administration, and then you say, I'm going to pay the, or let's say you have some other loss that you can offset the capital gains against. That would make sense to shut it down at that time. So those things happen.
Very interesting. It seems like there's a lot of flexibility with this, right? There's a lot of different things that you can do with that. With that, the trust as well. I'm always interested. The government have always, the tax code is set up right for you to do what they want, right? For example, with rental real estate, there's a lot of tax benefits for rental real estate because they're not in the business of building housing. They have tried, and it doesn't really usually end out to work out well. So this and that. I was wondering, what is the benefit to them for doing something like this with the trust? Is
for
it just
the government?
Yeah. With the IRS, is there a reason you think, or is it just they're trying to help people that in retirement? Maybe
it's been. I don't know the answer to that question. I suspect it's because there are congressmen that own real estate.
Oh, that's it. There's always, no, not at all. It usually comes down to that, and that usually makes sense, right?
I bet if we went back and looked, but this section 453 has been there since like the 60s. So it's something that's been around a long time.
Yeah, it's the same reason why they probably won't get rid of. People are always saying, "Oh, Biden." Not to get political or anything, I'm not political at all. But that Biden's going to get rid of the 1031. People are like, well, a lot of senators have real estate, so they're not gonna vote against something that's going to hurt them, right? So
that's kind of my opinion.
Mine too.
They might get rid of it, but it'd be brought back up again and looked at. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think there's.
I think so too. With setting up a trust, what should people take into consideration? What do they, when setting up? All trusts created equally? The type of trust, is there, certain things that they should be looking for in particular?
There has to be certain tools in the trust, and it certainly has to be set up to meet the code. Okay. So you want to work with somebody that knows what those regulations are, and I'm not a good one. What we do, we have a company that we work with out of California. They're called Dunham Trust Company, and they actually set the trust up in Nevada. And the reason they set it up there is because there's no state income tax. So there's a benefit of them setting up the trust. And they work with an attorney wherever the sale is going to be made. So if it's in California or Texas or, wherever it is, there'd be an attorney locally, because you have to follow the state regs, but then you want to make sure you follow the federal guidelines. So I think having a good attorney, somebody that's had experience with this, to be able to set it up and do that.
Yeah. And is there, does this work for any type of investor, or is there a certain type of person that this works better for and is better suited?
Well, I think the hard part is that there has to be enough capital gains that is due on the sale to make it worth going ahead and setting up the trust. So there are costs, some upfront costs getting the trust in place. And then you have to have an administrator, a trust administrator, like you do with the 1031. So the company that is going to do that administration and make sure all the reporting is done, there's a fee that they get a fee as well. And so it has to be, I guess the type of investor would be somebody that wants an income stream, somebody that wants money that they can use towards their retirement. Because some people, when they sell the property, they don't want to put the money in a trust that's going to be invested in stocks, bonds, ETFs or mutual funds. Maybe they're at a point that they want to take that property and reinvest it in other property. This intermediary installment sale, idea probably wouldn't work for somebody that wanted to reinvest in real estate. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
it's probably an investor that's looking towards slowing down and would like to receive a steady income. And realtors, because they're self-employed people and they're used to, going from making big sales. And when you reach retirement or you're going to sell a big property and have these proceeds, you probably want that steady income for retirement, that where the money's going to be coming from. I just have worked with a client that he did a 1031 and there was no renter. And he was planning on that being his income in retirement, the rental income, and it wasn't there. And it was just so painful to watch him trying to get that property rented out so that he could have an income stream. So whereas with this idea of the trust and this intermediary installment trust deal, that income stream is going to be there because all the proceeds have been put in the trust. So there is another option for those people that want to go into real estate. So I don't know that as well, but it's called a monetized sale. Okay. And it allows you to defer paying the capital gains for 30 years and you don't get an income stream, but you can defer the capital gains for that time. And the investment that you put the money into is other real estate. So there's really several of these, what I want to say, ideas, ways to defer depending on what your goals are, what your financial needs are. If you need the money, if you don't need the money, if you're looking at reinvesting in real estate.
That's why I love having people like you on and stuff like that, because there's so many options in real estate. And I think a lot of times that we don't even realize what is out there for us to kind of take advantage of. And it's something like this could be life-changing for someone, right? If they can avoid paying the capital gains, they have a big capital, they've built a good portfolio or bought a large property, made a good amount of money, and now they were winding down and they want to just enjoy the fruits of their labor, right? And they don't want to sell and buy something else and put themselves in another job, but at the same time, they don't pay the capital gains. So something like this, if you have a property that's been significant, if you have something that is, say, 2 million, right, a 6% on that is 120,000 a year, right, for not doing much at all. So it can be
and you can get that and you can get that nice income stream and take a portion of that 6% and set it aside and save it. I think it gives you options. Don't you think that's the best part?
Yes. The more options you have, right, the more things you can add to your tool belt, the better it is.
Because we don't know what's going to happen. I think lots of people think that taxes are going to go up, but how long will they be up? And so, if you can defer during that time until maybe they go back down, it's that cycle of life that we're going through.
Plus, in 20 years' time, right, whatever your tax implication is, if it's 200,000 now, right, 200,000 in 20 years' time is going to be worth a lot less than 200,000 today, right? And the way they're printing money, that might only be worth $20 in today's money. Right? So
that's
if you
really
can push,
true.
So if you can push that down, push the money down. It's the same. They talk about debt, right? When you take debt on, and you get a loan for 400,000, whatever, that loan of 400,000 in 30 years time or whatever it is, 15 years time will be worth a lot of time. So you get inflation to eat that away. You get inflation to eat that way, that tax burden. So it's a great strategy for that.
So you're using the inflation to your advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Don't let it hurt. Let it help you.
Yes.
Well, this is awesome. Like I said, I love conversations like this because it opens your mind to different things and to different possibilities, and it can really, really accelerate, your wealth sometimes, right, and your options and everything along with that. So I really appreciate you sharing all that. But as this show's called Wrestling with Real Estate, I like to incorporate some wrestling related real estate questions. And the first question is, what would your wrestling name be?
I'm from Wyoming, so it has to be something with cowboys, don't you think?
Okay.
The Wyoming Cowboys, and I think they had quite a good wrestling team at the University of Wyoming. So I think
I don't know too much about cowboys, so I
maybe
can't
it's
help you
got to
too
be a
much.
cowgirl.
Yeah.
So wild Wyoming cowgirl. That's all I can.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, wild Wyoming cowgirl. That's good. I like the sound of it.
Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah. WWC for sure. Yeah, wild Wyoming cowgirl. I like that. I like that. Every wrestler has a special move. What is your special move?
I think identifying the options before you move. You know, don't close. I loved what you said about not closing your mind to other ideas. You know, people come and say, I'm going to do 1031. I'm going to do this. I've got my mind made up. They listen to one person when there might be 4 or 5 other solutions out there. So I think opening your mind and getting to get different opinions. So I would say that is my special move, is going to getting resources and listening to other people and then putting all that together before I decide what to do. That's
great. And I think it's so important, right? Because nobody has one answer, and there's usually not one size fits all for everyone, right? And the more you can kind of get out there and hear different opinions, different ideas, different ways people have done it, like, you know, you might find something that works better for you. And I think it's just having that open-mindedness and that willing to listen to the people and willingness to learn is so important.
Very true. I think the big thing there is not one size does not fit everybody.
Yeah.
You know, there's just so many, it needs to be customized for you.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your business, you think? Tough ones, asking the tough questions.
No, I've taken them.
Okay.
I had the I think it's after I've done the work and I've identified the idea, it's being willing to take the leap of faith. So trusting yourself and doing it. It's not the largest, but it's sitting and knowing there's an opportunity for you and knowing you're feeling excited about it. And then you let all the shoulds kind of stop you from taking that action, keep you from moving forward.
Yeah.
So I would say not taking the opportunity that was available.
And that kind of leads me, I guess, to the final question as well, is that, was there a moment, and I'm guessing there was, by the question, was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope, getting ready to jump, but you were too scared? What was it, and how did you overcome it? So was there, you talked about the body slam was maybe not taking that action. Was there a specific incident that you remember that you wish you would have jumped?
Well, I would just say that I was in Nebraska, and when I ran into those college friends and they got me excited about switching careers, I would say I jumped. And so I was standing on a cliff and I was saying, should I go here or should I go here? I've got an opportunity to stay as an employed person and work for a hospital system somewhere. I was in healthcare at the time, and I could have stayed as an employee, not as an entrepreneur, and just taken my paycheck. And instead, I jumped and started my own business, jumped and didn't look back. So I think that was I guess that's a time when I took the opportunity.
Yeah.
People that you run into in your life that mean a lot, and you have an opportunity to do something, take it sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I think I rarely find that people who take that jump, take that plunge, they regret it, right? Because
They don't regret.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They feel good about it, and it's always kind of somehow works out. So that's cool. Well, Kim, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been so fascinating that I know we talked about the sort of the installment sale a lot of the times, but it's so interesting, and I think hopefully a lot of people will take a lot of stuff away from this. And I appreciate you sharing all that great information.
Well, I would, if I can, just
Yes,
offer,
yes.
I have kind of a quick spreadsheet that we have, and all I need are what you think what the sale is going to be, what you think the capital gains is going to be, and then I can do a comparison of if you just did an installment sale, or if you took it all outright and paid the tax, or if you did this intermediary deal with putting it in the trust and not paying the tax for 20 years. And I've got a spreadsheet that shows you. So if anybody is interested, I just need 3 or 4 pieces of information. I need to know what state you're in, so I know what capital gains rate. And we'd run that spreadsheet. So I would like to offer to your listeners that if they would like that spreadsheet, we'd do that for them so they could see if it's something that might be helpful to them. And they can just give me a call at 623-299-9710. Or they can email me at Kim@Keystone Group AZ for Arizona.com. So Kim@KeystoneGroupAZ.com. And we would be glad to do the spreadsheet for them. So.
Very cool, very cool. And like I said, it's a cool strategy, and I think people should definitely look into it, right?
Cool.
And the cool thing about your spreadsheet is that it'll tell you on the sheet kind of what makes sense and what doesn't, right? Does this make sense for me? Well, look at the numbers, and it'll look at the numbers, and it'll tell you.
Of information. It doesn't have to be accurate. You could just say, what if I did a $2 million sale with $1 million cost? How does this compare? So it just gives you an idea.
Okay.
Just a resource.
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
Piece of information.
Yeah, exactly. And if people want to reach out to you, those are the best places to get in touch with you as well.
Absolutely.
Cool, very cool. Well, Kim, thank you so much. Thank you for your energy and your explanation of everything, and sort of enlightening us to a different strategy out there, and sort of again opening our minds even more. So I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day out there in Phoenix, and hopefully we'll keep in touch.
Okay, thank you. I'll be listening.